Dr. Kissinger, nice to see you, sir.
Always good to be here.
Okay, all eyes are on Iran. What difference do you think it means to the United States if it's Ahmadinejad who's president or Mousavi who's president?
The personalities may make some difference. Ahmadinejad is fanatical and very much based on a very populist approach. Mousavi was no great bargain when he was prime minister. So it isn't that one of them is pro-West and the other isn't. He'd probably be more liberal, a little bit more liberal domestically. And he has the support of intellectuals and professors and the city people as against the agriculture area. But what I think the difference will be is this. Here is a regime that's run by theologians and has an Ayatollah as the head of it. And they've been running it on the principle that they are a religiously based organization. Now they've had mass demonstrations in Tehran and in other cities against the regime. And in order to counter it, they've had some mass demonstration against the demonstrators. This puts the legitimacy of the regime more on the side of the public than of the Ayatollahs. So whether the Ayatollahs, in my opinion, cannot fully recover from the fact that they announced the election as a divine result and then had to start reconsidering it, and that they're now re-examining it, and whatever different result they announced was not what they had originally intended to do. So I think the regime has been shaken up a bit. Now, how that will affect their foreign policy, will it make them more aggressive in order to rally people on a nationalist basis? In the short term, this could be, but their self-confidence and their self-assurance inwardly will be somewhat affected. Because after all, many of the people who voted for Mousavi are saying we want better relations with the outside world. So I think it is on the whole an evolution that may go in a positive direction.
You know, as I look
at...
Not
yet, but I think it's a prospect.
And I guess that's sort of good for us because that's on the outside. When I look at these two men, Ahmadinejad and Mousavi, I think I can't imagine being on the losing end of the election. Mousavi, during the 1980s, executed thousands of people executed when he was prime minister. Yes. Ahmadinejad has been equally vicious to his people. I can only imagine, like, whoever wins this round, that his opponents' supporters are in for deep trouble internally.
I suspect Ahmadinejad will win. I mean, he's gone to Russia, and several of the heads of state there sort of certified him from their, I think, the Brazilian and the Russian and maybe even the Indian. But their problem will be how deep their support is. They might crack down briefly, but for their visible opponents, it may be difficult.
Iran right now is accusing the United States of intolerable meddling in its internal affairs. I guess that's directed at our president. I mean, how do you, if you were advising our president now, what would you be telling him, and how's he doing on this?
Well, you know, I was a McCain supporter, and but I think the president has handled this well. Anything that the United States says that puts us totally behind one of the contenders, or we couldn't be behind Mousavi, would be a handicap for that person. And I think it's the proper position to take, that the people of Iran have to make that decision. Of course, we have to state our fundamental convictions of freedom of speech, free elections, and I don't see how President Obama could say less than he has. and even that is considered intolerable meddling. He has, after carefully stayed away from saying things that seem to support one side or the other, and I think that was the right thing to do, because public support for the opposition would only be used by Ahmadinejad, if I can ever learn his name properly, against Mousavi.